I watch students struggle with this all the time. They'll have a brilliant idea in their head, but they'll spend weeks perfecting it mentally before they ever put pen to paper or pixels to screen. By the time they finally externalize it, they've already talked themselves out of half the good ideas. The magic happens when you see your ideas sooner, messier, more honestly. Because creativity isn't about having perfect ideas, it's about having the confidence to iterate on imperfect ones. Getting into rendering early was just too slow,
Mm.
but that I think is not the case anymore.
Uh,
Rendering is insanely quick. So it's one of those things where uh, any older designers that maybe grew up on the frustration of slowness just need to
mm,
understand that it actually speeds up a lot of time. But at the
mhm,
same time, I think the double-edged sword with that is if when people get into CAD too quickly, people double down on ideas too fast,
mm.
where they'll have an idea and they're a little more, they can be a little more reluctant to rework it or throw it away. And the last thing I'll say about this is like, if you can do a sketch on the table in front of a client, they
Mm.
will look at you like you're a wizard and you'll instantly get their respect and they'll trust you. If you're the first person to show it to them, you're like the gatekeeper that all of a sudden allowed them to level up. So quick sketching is super invaluable.
Coming up
Okay.
on Design Mindset, Reid Schlegel, industrial designer and educator, on why the fastest path to great design isn't better ideas, but better ways to see your ideas quickly, and how visualization builds the creative confidence that separates good designers from great ones. Hey everyone, welcome back to Design Mindset. I'm Radhika Seth. Today's episode is brought to us by KeyShot, 3D rendering and visualization software that lets designers see their ideas in photorealistic detail within minutes, not weeks. Use the code MINDSET for a free trial at keyshot.com/mindset. Today we are exploring something that affects every creative person but rarely gets talked about directly: creative confidence. Not the confidence to present your final work, but the confidence to explore ideas when they're still rough, uncertain, and still evolving. My guest today has spent his career helping designers build this fundamental skill. Reid is a design director at RS.D, a professor at Parsons School of Design, and has worked on major projects with smart design brands like OXO. That makes Reid's perspective unique in his expertise in the tools that bridge thinking and seeing from traditional sketching to advanced digital rendering. Reid teaches visualization workshops globally because he understands a crucial truth: designers who can see their ideas faster make better decisions, take bigger creative risks, and ultimately create more impactful work. Reid, welcome to Design Mindset. Let's dive into why speed of visualization might be the most underrated skill in design. Reid, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Reid, you teach sketching and rendering to designers around the world. What's
Mhm.
what's the relationship between how quickly someone can see their ideas and their creative confidence?
Yeah, I mean, sketching and visualization is something that's always been a classic industrial design skill, but obviously it's evolved over the years. I think I'm 36 now, so had the end of the old school generation of people using marker renderings, and now obviously we're in this new era of VR, AR, AI, all these different things that are changing.
Mhm.
But no matter which skills you're using, you need to execute your ideas quickly, especially because the landscape has changed a lot in my experience, even just in the last 15 years or so, where clients expect more for less money, which means faster timelines. So anyone who's able to put things out there and really see their ideas is going to be a better brainstormer and team player.
Mhm.
So if you get rid of that kind of stickiness of it has to be perfect, you'll
Mhm.
actually be a better team member. Because remember, design's never done on its own.
Yeah, that's very true. And so when you're working with your students at Parson, how do you help them overcome that perfectionist paralysis, that fear of making their ideas visible before it's ready? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is a lot of students get into this mindset that you have a specific process of
Mhm.
research, sketch, model, render, uh, and then storyboard or whatever the final one is. And the process rarely is that streamlined and simple. And really, what I try and teach people is it's not about being good at just sketching and rendering. It's about having a wider toolkit. I kind of use the analogy of like Batman's tool belt, where there's a lot of different things that need to be used at different times. And in the beginning, showing an idea quickly doesn't have to be any one specific skill. It could be a quick clay model. It could be a bunch of Amazon boxes cut up and glued together to make a form study or a volume study. Could be fast sketching, could be CAD. As long as people are more comfortable with being flexible and working with the skill that's going to get them the output they need as fast as possible and are okay with sacrificing quote unquote quality for it, it
Mm.
will overall make the design better because you'll work out a lot of the crappy ideas in the beginning. It's one of those things where sometimes you get the nail on the head right away, but most of the time you have to slog through the process and figure out how to make it work. And there's only one way to do that, which is just trial and error.
Mm. True. So, I realize that your background spans from traditional sketching to digital tools. So, how has that evolution of visualization technology changed the creative process itself?
hmm Yeah, I mean, when I first started working, like we mentioned, smart design, that was my first, I call it my first like big boy job out of college where I actually had, health insurance and a paycheck and everything.
Wow.
When I worked there, most of the work I did was Sketchbook Pro or digital sketching, and got into CAD much later.
Mm.
But that has evolved a little bit where now when I worked at a place like Arleden, where I was one of the design directors, we
Mm.
would do very quick sketch phases and kind of jump over digital sketching and did it very rarely and went right into what I'd call sketch CAD. So
Mm.
that's very quick, blocked out models. And you'd then throw it into KeyShot and look at it in reality, and you'd have like a very basic version of itself.
Mm.
Um, but today, when we're talking about digital versus like physical sketching,
Mm.
digital sketching is something that becomes more of like a niche skill in certain applications, whereas hands-on paper sketching is the one that never goes away, in my opinion. I
Mm.
don't think it's something that you're going to do like a full marker rendering. I know that's something that I'm kind of known for, but I'm not naive to the fact that it's not a skill that you're really going to do in a professional setting. It's more of like a fun thing and an art skill. But the quick post-it note in Sharpie or the 8.5 by 11 cut in half with like a Papermate flare. I have this whole thing about paper size should increase as the processes increase, and then pen size should go down as the processes increase. That way you can manipulate how much of the idea needs to be fleshed out at each point in the process. But
Mm.
that quick visualization skill is something that will always be beneficial because we need to be people who are able to quickly articulate ideas to our clients and to our team members. And for team members, if you come to a brainstorm with 3 digital sketches,
Mm.
that's that's nice. But if you come with 30 paper sketches, that's great because you need to realize that when you're working in a team, your job, especially as a junior designer, is to bring in fodder for discussion and
Mm.
things that we can look at to either say yay or nay on the designs. And
Mm.
if you only bring in a few like perfectly tight things, you're basically flipping the coin that one of those is perfect, opposed to spreading out the risk onto a bunch of sketches. And then as a team, you can kind of take things down, stick them together, cut one up, draw on it. And the less precious things are, the more you're going to have a collaborative session. And that's why I think paper sketching is something that still has a valuable place and will never quickly go away. Whereas digital sketching is obviously has its own place, but it's just a little bit more further down the line. And the last thing I'll say about this is like if you can do a sketch on the table in front of a client, they
Mm.
will look at you like you're a wizard and you'll instantly get their respect and they'll trust you. Something I used to do at Frog was I would be in meetings, big like strategic meetings with clients,
Mm.
and I would just be there visually illustrating the entire meeting
Mm.
on the board or
Mm.
just sketching people's ideas as they're saying them. And
Mm.
if you think about it, when you have a client, they're coming to you because they don't know how
Mm.
to fix their problems, which is why they hired
Mm.
a consultant.
Absolutely.
And they might have a design that's only lived in PowerPoint or in their
Mm.
head or
Mm.
Microsoft Word for their entire existence. And if you're the first person to show it to them, you're like the gatekeeper that all of a sudden allowed them to level up. So quick sketching is super invaluable.
Super, super, and yeah, down the process, like you said, this connects so beautifully with something that KeyShot enables, when designers can take rough 3D models and see it rendered into realistic materials, lighting, and context within minutes, it changes the entire feedback loop. And instead of spending days perfecting a concept in their head, they can actually externalize it very quickly. and see what's working, what isn't, and iterate based on the visual truth rather than just mental assumptions. So from your
Mhm.
professional experience at Smart Design, how does rapid visualization change the team dynamics in decision making?
Yeah, I mean, same thing as before. The more concepts you can bring to the table, the more confident you feel in your decisions. I think if you're choosing between two options,
Mm,
it's like, okay, we got to flip a coin. It's one of these two. But if you're choosing between 20, it feels like you've done your due diligence a bit more, and it feels as if no stones have been left unturned. So when you're going into making a decision, you really feel like you
mm,
have thought through all the options. And a lot of design is just decision making and confidence, where a seasoned designer can look at two designs and have a really good idea of why one is better than the other. But
mm,
especially for more junior people, it's a tricky thing to do to be able to articulate why this design is better than that design, since it's such a subjective thing.
mm,
And if you have a lot to look at, I think it gives you a tapestry of things to choose from.
mm,
And then it makes you really feel as if you have thought through all the options. So
mm,
that's one reason why I feel like rapidly ideating in the beginning, especially when you have materiality and things, is
mm,
going to help your process. And that's where I think when sketching, I could do air quotes,
mm,
I teach to my students is not just pen on paper. Sketching is any rapid visualization method. And that could be something where you just make really quick CAD and you just block it out.
mm,
That's something I learned really well when I was working at R. Eden.
mm,
Remember one of my coworkers, Kyle Laidlaw, was really good at this.
mm,
And he's someone that I was like, oh crap, like he's even younger than me and I want to learn how to do this. And just being able to quickly crank out CAD
mm,
and show like 15 options of something in an afternoon is
mm.
an insanely powerful skill, especially because, like I mentioned before, the consulting industry is changing with timelines and budgets and things. And if you can get to that higher fidelity faster, it
Mm,
gives more information, which makes each of those concepts pound for pound give you even more confidence that you're picking the right thing.
mm. So, see, right now you're talking about volume outputs, but personal experience of the way I work also, because we are all creative people, we do
Mhm.
face creative blocks. So, how does the ability to visualize ideas quickly help designers push through these stuck moments? Is there any idea on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that goes back to the whole Batman toolkit thing, where if I start feeling stuck, one thing I'll do is, well, first, I'll always just go take a walk. I feel like people just try and force themselves through a
Yeah.
problem when all you're going to do is make your mind tighten up even more. So just getting a little bit of space is always good.
Mhm,
But outside of that, I think it's always helpful to think through what are other mediums you can use to get those quick wins. And that's something I always look for, especially when I'm managing people, because I've been a director for many years now. And
mhm,
if a junior designer is someone who's having problems,
mhm,
I'll look for in my head, what are some quick wins I can give them that instantly gives them confidence back? Because
mhm,
when you're in a hole, all you see is your inadequacies, not what you can do. And for me, I'll always, if I get stuck for myself, just say, what can I do right now that will be a quick win that'll make me feel good for a minute? And that might just be changing to a different medium. So
mhm,
big, okay, I can't figure this form out in CAD right now. I'm getting stuck on a detail. Maybe I'll go and make a cardboard foam study, or maybe I'll then jump into what's it called? Viscom or something, and do a bunch of funky versions of it. What is a different way in which I can try and unlock myself that A makes me feel like I've done something productive, which for me at least makes me always feel better about myself. I'm a very productivity focused human being, for better, for worse. But that is something that I like to do is just thinking at sketching and quick ideation doesn't have to be just one medium. It could be lots of them. And if you can jump between those,
mhm.
not only are you honing your other skills, you're also making your brain think in a different way, which should hopefully make you feel as if you did something positive, which then means when you go back to it, you're feeling better about yourself, but you also have more fodder to put towards it to give you either an understanding of what was working or not working.
Hmm. Interesting. And the fact that you work across industrial design and illustration, two fields that are, very different kind of
Mhm.
visualization needs are there. So how do you adapt your approach for different types of creative challenge? Is there something that you follow, or how do you switch between one and the two?
Yeah, I mean, illustration work is definitely very different than, or I mean, it's like you said, it's similar but different. Where for illustration work, that's where I'm much more focused on the final output, but I
Mm,
still approach it in the same ideation process where I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket and give my client one idea or two ideas. I'd rather rapidly sketch them out, four or five or six ideas or frameworks or storyboards,
Mm-hmm.
and then show it to them and think through which one do we want. Because I have learned throughout my career, you have to be collaborative. And I think the most liberating thing I've learned is just like you're not the designer on a project ever, really, unless you're working for your own personal brand or something.
Yeah.
So if you can open yourself up to showing looser things earlier, it's only going to make a conversation more fruitful. And then you can spend your time jumping into the things that are actually going to be executed in the final result. So that way it feels like you're always moving one step forward, not one step, two steps back, which is probably the most frustrating way to work.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to like design work, it's pretty similar where it also depends on the client. It's a bit different where I like showing loose things as much as possible, but you need to also be someone who has soft skills and can read people's understanding of design and personalities. Some people are going to be super design minded and understand. They can see past a loose sketch and understand the potential. Some people just see a loose sketch. So
Yeah.
you have to then think through, okay, who's our client? What do they need? Because you also are kind of, I say consultants and teachers are one part designer, one part therapist half the time. You're
Yeah.
just trying to get people to like feel better about the decisions you're making that you're either going to be going into your career with or spending lots of money on. And you have to know how to handhold someone the right way.
Correct, correct, correct. So, as an educator, how do you teach students this? That the first visualization attempt doesn't need to be the final answer.
Hmm.
How do you get, because they get so attached to the first outcome or the first design that they have created or visualized. Is there
Hmm.
a way that you tell them how to detach from it?
Yeah, I mean, I do that, but I started teaching workshops about 10 years ago around like globally, which turned into me getting a teaching position at Parsons, and now I also teach at offsite with Hector Silva and Kane University with my buddy Efe, who runs a department over there. And basically, I've always had the mentality that you should teach openness and process as early as possible
Mm,
because A, it teaches people that are struggling a bit that if they're not as quote unquote perfect as their peers, it doesn't mean they're falling behind.
mm,
It actually is okay. Like I try and explain to them, you have 2.5 years or 3 years from when I get them in my process drawing or my design delineation class, which are basically the same thing, that's for different names for different schools,
mm,
that you can apply these skills and learn them over time. But I also try and make sure that all my classes are extremely process focused. So
mhm,
it's not just, okay, we're going to learn how to do a digital rendering. And now we're going to learn how to do a Sketchbook Pro rendering. And now we're going to learn how to do a marker sketch.
mm,
It's my classes when I teach them are always focused on process and the clarity of decision making is what you're learning here. We just happen to be learning sketching to do it. And
mm,
it's one of many mediums. And if you apply that from sophomore year onward, it means when you're making your portfolio pieces and your projects, you're thinking about them from a storytelling, holistic mindset,
mm,
which means your projects all have more substance and meat to them from the beginning, opposed to learning that your junior or senior year. And all of a sudden, you have to go back and rework a bunch of pretty shallow projects because you didn't know what that was.
mm,
So when people take my classes, some people love them and some people struggle with them. No matter what, I give as much attention as I can to make those people learn it.
mm.
But I do feel like educating people earlier on about those methodologies does create stronger portfolios and stronger work, especially by the time they're seniors and they're struggling to get a job.
So then in this process also, do you think technology plays an important role in building creative confidence? Like, can digital tools compensate for traditional sketching skills, or do they
Mhm.
complement each other?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, whether I like it or not, the world is becoming more digital over time. Like
Hmm.
I said, I think my age bracket of designers are ones that saw the end of the very analog era
Hmm.
and the transition to the now very heavy digital era.
Hmm.
But I'd still believe, I hope it's correct, that the analog will never go away. It'll just get a little smaller over time, but it still needs to learn. It's like a chicken or the egg scenario. You have to know how to sketch to know that you know how to render, to know how to sketch. It's like they all
Yeah.
circumvent each other and work with each other. Um, but as things are changing, I
Hmm.
really feel like people just need to understand that you, as the designer, are the person who's driving the skill, no matter what it is. So AI is a whole big one where I have to talk to my students about it a lot, where now they see these pretty things you can make in 5 seconds,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
a pretty thing with no substance doesn't mean much, right?
Correct.
And but at the same time, it's like you can do a beautiful marker rendering that's a terrible
Yeah.
idea,
Yeah.
and I'd rather do a quick AI render that's a bad idea because it took me a tenth of the time, or
Uh,
maybe even less than that.
uh-huh.
But at the end of the day, you need to be someone who knows the hard skills. That way you can drive and you understand. That's also like the hard thing is the only way you get good at understanding like proportions and aesthetics and volume and shape and form and everything is just by doing it. And
Hmm.
half of that is sketching, model making, CAD modeling. They all are like the three-way Venn diagram. And then once you really understand those things, then you can look at AI and say, this is good or bad for X and Y and Z reasons. Then you have a point of view on something. Whereas if you're just able, like I was literally with my best friend, his kids are my godchildren, and they saw that I was doing some stuff with Meshy AI, and they're what's it called, like 6 and 8, and they literally wanted to show me all the stuff they made in AI. And if
Wow.
an 8-year-old can do it, a senior in college shouldn't look at it as like, look what I can do. It's like, no, literally third graders are doing this. The
Yeah.
difference is you need to be someone who knows how to explain why that's good and how you can use that tool other than just generating things.
Correct.
Um, but I'm getting a little off topic, so we can rein it back in.
No, no, no. That it's a very interesting and a very relevant one, because uh like they say when students or professionals are learning new visualization tools like KeyShot,
Hmm.
KeyShot Studio, they can, iterate on materials, lighting, and camera angles in real time without starting over. So this
Hmm.
reduces the psychological cost of experimentation. So you're not committing hours to see if an idea works. You're committing
Hmm.
minutes of it. So, how does creative confidence through rapid visualization translate to career success? What do you see in designers who've mastered that skill?
I mean, it just means you're an efficient team member. My entire career has been consulting, and consulting is a rapid environment where you have to execute quickly, or else you just won't be able to keep up with the demand and the workload.
Mm.
And if you're able to flex your skills to
Mm.
apply the right skill at the time, it's like I wouldn't sketch for every single project because what if I'm doing something that's super organic and funky?
Mm. Mm.
That might be better for sketching. But if I'm doing something that's hyper technical, then CAD is going to be much better for that.
Mm.
Or if I'm doing something in between, maybe it's Gravity Sketch or something like that. There's different, you need to look at what the output is and find what the appropriate tool is
Mm.
because I don't care if my team is using Blender or like Shaper 3D or whatever, or sketching, as long as what they're coming to the table with is an appropriate amount of ideas at a fidelity that's enough to have a discussion. There's
Mm.
always the point in which you have to make decisions, and then you double down on the classic skills. Then you're going to go into SolidWorks, you're going to go into KeyShot, you're going to go into Photoshop.
Mm.
But in the beginning, it's much more of the Wild West of I don't care how you get there as long as you get there. And then later on is when we'll all come back together and we'll go into like a singular workflow because we have to share KeyShot files or CAD files. And at that point, we need to be a singular unit that can work together. But in
Yeah.
the beginning, it's a bit more flexible. So you have more freedom to do what works best for you as long as your ideas are clear and there's a lot of them.
Mm. So, in your opinion, what's the biggest misconception about visualization tools? Do people see them as shortcuts or do they think of it as thinking aids? What's the biggest
Mhm.
misconception according to you?
Um, I feel like it might just be an age thing for me, but I feel like it used to be getting into rendering early was just too slow.
Mm.
But that I think is not the case anymore. Things have gotten so good. Like just from when I first learned KeyShot, it was what, 2010? I don't even know what version of KeyShot that was.
Mm.
So it was very different back then. I remember we'd all be in the computer lab because none of our laptops were strong enough to render. And
Mm.
we'd set our renders for the evening, cross our fingers that the next morning they look correct and then have to come back and be like, all right, well, this is what I'm presenting because it took all night to do this. And
Uh,
it no longer is that way anymore. So now people understand, especially with render farms and everything,
uh,
rendering is insanely quick. So it's one of those things where uh, any older designers that maybe grew up on the frustration of slowness just need to
mm.
understand that it actually speeds up a lot of time. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I think the double-edged sword with that is if when people get into CAD too quickly, people double down on ideas too fast,
Mm.
where they'll have an idea and they're a little more, they can be a little more reluctant to rework it or throw it away. Whereas I had my old boss, literally used to have a butterfly knife on him. He would cut my sketches off the walls once in a while. He'd be like, nope, 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 nope. And you just learn quickly that things aren't precious. It's not about your beautiful idea. It's not, you're not drawing something so your mom puts it on the refrigerator. You're doing something as a sacrificial lamb to help the team move the ball forward. So as
Yeah.
long as you're able to do that with CAD as well, it
Hmm.
actually can speed you up. And it's also just crazy how kids are learning coding and CAD modeling in elementary school now. So
Yeah.
the learning curve is that's what's coming up is people who just eat, sleep, and breathe this, not people who learned it when they were 18 or 19.
Yeah. That's really fascinating, this perspective of yours. And it takes me to the best part of my show, which is called the
Hmm.
Design Mindset Challenge. And this one's
Awesome.
inspired by your work, building creative confidence in designers.
Hmm.
I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation, and I would like to see how you would solve for it. All
Sounds
right.
good.
So the scenario is this: a talented industrial designer has been working for 2 years but struggles with creative confidence. They have
Hmm.
great ideas, but they second guess themselves constantly, spending too
Hmm.
much time perfecting concepts mentally before showing them to anyone. So their manager wants them to contribute more actively to the brainstorming sessions and present concepts earlier in the process. They have solid technical skills, but feel their visualization abilities are holding them back for their creative contribution. How would you help them?
I mean, I'm the type of person who is not afraid at all to ask for help. If I'm the type of person, if I'm lost, I'll pull over and ask a stranger how to get somewhere. If it gets me faster to where I need to go, I
Mm,
don't care about my ego about things. I'll let that go. I try and let it go as much as possible because it just holds you back. And
mm,
I think that's one of those things where self-confidence can also be disguised as just ego sometimes, where people don't. I mean, a lot of people, like my biggest fear is looking stupid. Like no one likes looking dumb,
yeah,
and if people will curtail their own progress in that fear. So I think if you have a good manager, you should be able to have a good discussion with them and ask them, how can I tailor this? Like I actually love being a manager. When I was at Arleden and at Huge, I was a director, so I had direct reports who I had to manage, and their career was part of my responsibility, how to help them move forward.
mm,
And I'd rather have someone come to me and say, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. How do we work on it? Opposed to trying to hide it because I can still see it from a mile away. Like, it's funny when I teach my sketching classes, students will come up and they'll show me work, and I'll say, okay, first off, you didn't change this, 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 that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And they're like, how do you see all that? I'm like, because you don't understand. This is what I've been doing for so long. My job is to see problems from miles away.
yeah,
So trying to hide it, you're actually probably not hiding it. So let's just make that clear for a good manager or a good designer. And also, if that person actually cares about you and your progress, they will sit down and help you figure out, like, okay, well, what skills are working? What skills aren't working? How can we get you on a plan that's going to help you fix things?
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, if someone hired you, it's in their best interest to help you become a better designer
yeah,
because it costs usually like 30 to $40,000. Someone fact check me on that to
yeah,
hire a new person, and they don't want to go through that. They'd rather make sure you level up. That
yeah,
way you are helping the project, helping the team, and also so that way you feel like you have a good work environment and you want to stay.
yeah,
So I would say like radical transparency is probably a good thing opposed to hiding it, just because A, you're probably not hiding it as well as you think you are, and B, people, one thing that was really helpful in my career is understanding that people around you want to see you succeed, not fail.
yeah.
Like your client wants you to succeed, your boss wants you to succeed. No one is rooting against you because that's rooting against themselves at the end of the day as well.
Yeah. I really love that approach, and thank you for sharing your thought on this.
Of course.
And it takes us to the next section, which is the rapid fire round. Just quick thoughts on certain questions that I throw your way, and would love you to give whatever comes to your mind at first. All right?
Awesome.
Yeah, let's go. So complete the sentence for me. Creative confidence grows when designers dash.
Um, Embrace ambiguity.
Wow. And the biggest mistake designers make when trying to visualize ideas quickly?
Mm, I think to our topic today, aiming for perfection too early.
Okay. And traditional sketching or digital rendering, which builds confidence faster?
It really is a personality trait thing.
Mm.
Some people are more artistic, some people are more technical. Not to say that either of those can't be both,
Yeah,
but I think either one is completely acceptable. It just depends on which you prefer.
perfect, perfect. One mindset shift that transforms how designers approach visualization.
Not being afraid to pivot your tools, and it's not one size fits all for every part of the process.
Perfect. And the last one. One word, what does creative confidence feel like?
Oh man, what does it feel like? It really feels, I don't know, empowering, like warm inside. Like I definitely have, I know there's always the times when I would leave work and I would just feel really good, just knowing that the work that I did was well received and that I was going in the right direction.
Hmm.
Because, like when I said, embrace ambiguity,
Yeah.
design is very difficult to get everyone on the same page with, and you're not going to make everyone like your work. But if you leave and your director or your team or even the person you manage, whatever it was, really resonated with your work, it's a really, really uplifting feeling. Um, and that's why we design, right? Is to make other people happy and make their lives better. That could be the end user or the person who's paying you to make it. But either way, it's like we are in an industry of creating happiness for people. So if you can do that for yourself as well, remind yourself that design is actually a pretty fun job. So remind yourself that it should feel good as much as possible.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Reid, this conversation has been incredibly insightful. And what strikes me most is how you have reframed visualization from a presentation skill to a thinking and a feeling skill, and
Hmm.
how that shift fundamentally changes a designer's relationship with their own creativity. And your
Hmm.
key insight that really resonates with me, that creative confidence isn't about just having better ideas, it's about having better ways to see, test, and iterate on your ideas that you already have. And
Hmm.
if designers can externalize concepts quickly, they stop trying to be, perfecting their ideas in isolation and start improving them through visual dialogue.
Yep.
And thanks to KeyShot for supporting designers at every level with tools that make rapid, high quality visualization accessible. And for everyone listening, you can follow Reid's work. Reid, where can they find you?
Most of my work's on Instagram. It's just my name. It's just at Reid dot Schlegel or Schlegel.
And thank you. The key insight that I'm taking away today is that the speed at which you can see your ideas directly impact the risks you're willing to take with them. Creative confidence lives in that willingness to explore. So, thank you for sharing your expertise with us on Design Mindset Reid. This conversation will definitely help designers trust their creative process more deeply. And next week, my listeners, stay tuned. We will be back. Remember, don't live by default, design it. See you next week.
Awesome. Thank you.